Our next keynote speaker will outline the role of the BNB chain for gaming in emerging nations. Joining us remotely, please welcome on screen Alvin Kan of BNB Chain.
Hello everyone, this is Alvin from BNB Chain. Very nice to meet all of you. Sincere apologies that I couldn't be there with you all in Manila as my family is down with COVID, but glad that I'm still able to make this keynote and happy to share whatever insights I have. So I lead the growth operations team at BNB Chain, and what we do is to build a robust ecosystem, especially in GameFi, which I'll talk about later, and also to help GameFi projects succeed, right, in terms of helping them with advisory, helping them with some of the hiring, helping them to understand how to win in this market. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the role of BNB Chain, especially for GameFi, in relation to emerging nations. So first off, right, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with BNB Chain. We are the most active public chain with 1.2 million daily active users. So I'm just going to shift this a little. You can see here, since we started more than 2 years ago, right, there's been ups and downs, and recently in the last 2 to 3 months, our daily active users has actually been climbing, which is a good sign, right? And this is really testament to the variety and quality of the dApps that are coming onto BNB Chain. So you can see here over the last 2 months, we have actually risen from 900,000 all the way to, back to 1.2 million daily active users. And 1.2 million daily active users, that is quite a big number for public chains today, right? If you compare to most other, the other well-known public chains, they could be sitting around 300 to 400,000. And we're able to get these active users to come onto BNB Chain for various reasons, right? But one of the key ones is really gaming, right? You see at the bottom here, we have done a study before, and about 30 to 40% of these users have actually interacted with games. Right, and we use games as a very loose term here, but it could also mean like metaverse or any of the gamification apps, right? So if we go to the next slide, you can see some of the more commonly known games, either already on BNB Chain or coming up very, very soon. And you'll see here that it's not just about 1 or 2 games, but really there is a universe of different variety and genres that are already on the chain, right? You have, Superpower Squad, which is a mobile game that's coming up very soon, I think in the next 1 or 2 months. We have games that have stayed here for very long, like in the second one, you have Mobox, which launched Momoverse a few months ago, right? And I think they've been around for 1 to 1.5 years or even more. And, there's Stellar Fantasy and RPG, there are AAA studios like Netmarble coming on board with Golden Bros. There are casual games like Wham. There is shooting, which I'll talk a little bit about, this game called The Harvest, which is a AAA shooting game that's coming up. In fact, they're in open beta mode right now. And then there are metaverse events where we held our first concert on BNB Chain, again, a few months back. So many different types of games, right? And that appeals to different users or different geographies. And that is what we want, right? We don't just want to be, say, only a AAA game chain. We want to be representing different game genres so that we can kind of attract and appeal to different types of gamers, whether you're a casual gamer, whether you're a serious gamer. Basically, we want to provide a platform for this, right? So how are we supporting the gaming industry, right? And we try to do it in various ways. In fact, I've just tried to summarize it into this 5, but there are probably many more that we're doing right now. The first one is really on infra setup, and I'll go through in detail for each of this, right? And infra setup is really about, trying to create an environment where it's easy for developers to develop games, right? So that you don't have to do everything from scratch. And then there is an ecosystem around gaming that we can build. So, besides playing the game, what else, what kind of the other opportunities or jobs or basically opportunities there are, right? Whether you're a streamer, you're a gamer, or you could be in supporting peripheral industries. And we will talk a little bit about esports later, right? And then it's also about us working with games to help them experiment new models. And what kind of new models, right? This could be models around tokenomics. This could be models around revenue sources. It could also be around some of the game flow designs. And then fourth is about expanding beyond gaming, right? I myself, like I play some games, but I really love certain gamification of different industries or experiences. For example, I think edutainment could be very big, right? And it really is it's a gamification of education, if you think about it. So when we try to bring gaming or gamification into different sectors, you start to see that the whole horizon of gaming has broadened so much, and we want to start supporting this kind of new models or new experiences and depths, right? Because it is very hard to predict what will come out big next, right? We know gaming as a sector that will definitely continue to thrive and expand, but there could be certain subsectors that could be really big, and we want to try to support those. And finally, it's really all the programs that we've developed over the last 1 year to support the game developers. So I'll be touching into each of these five. Well, first is on infra setup. So what goes into supporting a good game creation and experience? Lots and lots of things, right? As we started this thing called 360 infra review, and we do it for a lot of games as well. And as we do this, right, we start to go into the nitty-gritty details of, all right, what kind of RPC service providers are you using? What kind of wallets are you using? How's the security of your wallet systems? And then we go into the onboarding experience, which I think today in most games, it is still not ideal, right? If you think about how a gamer has to marry the experience of downloading a wallet, on-ramping tokens into the wallet, and also associating that wallet and then NFTs in it to the game itself. There are certain games where you have to go through multiple hoops and steps in order to even start playing the game, right? So how do we ensure that all this infrastructure is there? How do we ensure that you could have a wallet service that provides a seamless experience for the gamer and yet is also secure? We are working with a number of projects and companies, right, to create integrations for game engines and also create SDKs where it's easier for developers to develop these games as well, right? And these games could be casual games, or it could be easily help you to integrate NFTs into the game that you've developed. And then there is also about chain infra, right? Some of you may know that we released a sidechain framework quite a few months back, and we have seen. If you haven't seen the news, you'll see some news about basically the Netmarble subsidiary actually building the games and game platform on top of the sidechain, and this allows a lot of flexibility in creating their tokenomics and also in the future expansion of the entire platform, right? We have seen this also with MetaApes. I think the first sidechain that was developed was actually by Angkas in relation to the MetaApes game that they were doing. And that has been going on pretty well. I think they're seeing about 30,000 daily active users on the game itself. But beyond the sidechain, right? So sidechain offers one type of model of how you can operate your game platform. We also have the ZK rollup coming up, and I know a lot of games are very, very excited because with ZK, it means that you can go very fast in terms of transactions per second. The gas fees are way, way lower than what's currently on BSC or even EVM chains in general. So the type of experience that you get on ZK rollups, will be different as well. So essentially what we want to do is to offer different options for games to be able to configure, right, based on what they need. Now, the second one is really experimenting different GameFi models. So we have since established a team that works more closely with games, discussing this kind of issues. What kind of tokenomics models should you be using? Asking them about revenue streams, your go syncs and go taps, and so on. In fact, I think if you look at recent times, right, a lot of people are saying that there is a transition of play to earn to win to earn. There's a transition of like dual tokens back to single tokens. It's funny how some of these concepts have gone one big round and coming back, but nobody knows what is the best right now. I think we're still very, very early and nascent in this industry, that it still calls for many more experimentation. And one model doesn't fit all, right? So we're trying to understand with the games itself, right, for different kinds of configurations and scenarios, what kind of tokenomics models works best, right, and also what kind of pitfalls to avoid. So you see some of this, especially revenue streams is something I talk about a lot, right? If your game, produces tokens, right, in an inflationary way, then there must be something to back up that token value, right? And we are also advising games to think about, where you're getting your revenues. Is it only from the NFT sales at the beginning? Because this may not be sustainable, because it creates a vicious cycle where you need to get more and more new users to come in. So how can we get creative to get additional revenue streams? We have seen in traditional gaming, where, especially for casual games, where advertising is quite a big one, right? Although, it does hurt the experience a little. But even that itself is an additional revenue stream. So what other ways can we do it? Whether it's through UGCs and so on. This is something which we are experimenting with different games on different ways to do it, and we want to see which one works. And then also there's been discussion about, tokens, and does it always have to be a different game token, or could we use existing tokens like the L1 tokens or stablecoins to distribute and generate rewards? And then we go to, this concept of IFOs, IDOs versus LBPs, right? Interestingly, what we've seen is because of sometimes the craze and hype that comes with IDOs and so on, we know that it attracts a lot of profiteers, right, or people who want to make money rather than the real gamers. And some of the games are telling us that they actually want to look for different ways to launch the tokens. So we recently worked with Balancer to bring what they call LBPs, liquidity bootstrapping pools, right? And with LBPs, it means that I won't go into the game mechanics, but it means a different way to launch a token, right, in a more fair price manner. And this way, right, you may actually attract more serious gamers or people who are serious about the games to come in. And this is just like one of the dimensions of what we look at, right? Basically, we want to look at every single aspect of a GameFi model, right? Whether it's the tokenomics, whether it's the GameFi product design, and we want to try to experiment because, again, I think we're at a stage where we cannot be arrogant to say that one way works. We have to try. And then it's about expanding beyond gaming, right? So I mentioned about, every sector, every type of experience, you can add some form of gamification in, right? In this case, I put here an example of Hoop. The app is called Wild Cash. So they launched about 1-2 months ago, and within a few weeks, they became the #1 app in Indonesia on Google Play. So, not every day you get a #1 in Google Play itself. So what they've done is they are actually somewhat like a quiz to earn app. And I like it because it's gamification in a way. You learn about blockchain, you learn about certain stuff, and it kind of rewards you in a gamified way. And larger than the app itself, I think, if you think about the entire sector of edutainment, it's a big one, right? But today in the blockchain Web3 app space, I don't think we've seen a lot of those examples, right? There is, of course, TinyTab for education, but I think we're still lacking a lot of these depths and experimentation of how this can actually work with integration into Web3. So we want to support more projects like this, right, where it introduces gamification in different sectors, and I think edutainment is just one good example there. The other one, of course, is not just about playing the game, right? We're starting to see Metaverse and GameFi focusing a lot more on user-generated content. And what this means, especially for emerging nations, right, is that if you look at any sector, right, the established ones may already be established in very developed countries, but it's the ones that are developing, the nascent ones, right, where new jobs and new opportunities are created. And this is where, emerging nations have proven to be a lot more adaptable in jumping on these opportunities and leading the way. And so how would the creator economy work, for GameFi and Metaverse? I think for most metaverses today, we haven't seen a lot of traction, right? But there's huge promise. And I think it's just that the time hasn't come yet. But I think the time is now in terms of starting to experiment what kind of user-generated content will actually work. Same for GameFi, right? Some of them are going to creating like IGO platforms. Some of them wants to be the Steam of Web3. Some of them are going to user-generated content of how you can create different elements in the game to make it even more interesting, right, than what the game developers are building. So I think there's a whole very broad sector here, which I think we are still very early in the stage. And again, I keep saying we're very early, and this is true, right? Ask anyone out there. Games has been around for a long time, but how you integrate this kind of decentralized participation, right, with Web3 tokens and so on, there's still so much experimentation we can do. And that's what we want to do. We are not here, like BNB Chain is not here to direct and say that this is the way, this is the right tokenomics model, or this is the way to build out the GameFi sector. I think what we want to do is to encourage people to try and encourage, developers or gamers or streamers towards maybe certain directions that we see is growing well, right? And if there are new sparks that are coming up on the other end, we want to try to support those as well. Now, finally, it's definitely about supporting game developers, right? You see there are kind of two sections here. I broadly categorized them into, the first one is really about the different programs or open applications that you can go for. So at the top, you can see here, we have builder grants, right? Every month, this is a monthly program. So every month you can sign up for a builder grants program. We do award up to 10 grantees. We have the growth incentive program. We understand that some of the games actually want incentives or so-called rebates of the gas fees. And so the growth incentive program actually does that, right? We give incentives in terms of gas fee incentives for those that are growing well, especially for those games at the early stage. We have the MVB6, which is our most valuable builder season coming up. So the 6th season, if I'm not wrong, will come in December or end of this month, right? And again, it's an open application. So if you have a great idea, please go sign up for it. We have been running hackathons across different countries. And then right now, the big one is the European Innovation Incubator. That's been happening for the last 2 months, right? And we are kind of concluding and assessing through all the different applications. The one at the bottom is interesting, right? So we're starting to give different types of support based on what we hear are the needs of our GameFi devs. So for example, hiring has come up as a big challenge. And so we are creating a job board to help job matching for our GameFi devs. We have been starting to give a lot more tokenomics advisory, especially for pre-TGE projects. I mentioned this, we have been doing Infra 360 reviews because I think a lot of GameFi projects, they may have the game building experience, right? They can build a great game, but when it comes to putting it on Web3, for example, the type of RPC nodes, the type of wallet service, the type of security and, on smart contracts, like those are the ones where we kind of introduce different parts of the ecosystem, right, in terms of Web3 infra, and help them to provide a good and safe user experience. Then there are other things like matching projects to the right advocates or influencers or even game streamers, helping them with ecosystem partnerships, running campaigns and so on. So there's a lot of support today, right? Both in terms of like monetary and open applications. But the one that I really want to focus on is all these things at the bottom in terms of helping you to build a great team and a great game. So that's all. A very quick introduction to how we're thinking about supporting the GameFi industry and supporting emerging countries like Philippines to be on this journey as well. There's lots of support for you, right? Whether you're part of the GameFi ecosystem or the GameFi developer itself. Happy to be with you on this journey. Thank you.
Thank you for that insightful presentation, Alvin Kan.